Um, Jabari, if you're available, if you want to just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Sure. So for the record, my name is Jabari Jones. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, and all the members of City Council on this call. My name is Jabari Jones, and I serve as the president of the West Philadelphia Corridor Collaborative, which is the largest coalition of small businesses in West Philly. We're comprised of 14 member business organizations that have a combined membership of over 2,000 small businesses that lie along many of our Main Street commercial corridors. I want to thank you all for inviting me to testify this afternoon, and I want to thank all the members of this committee for their hard work in exploring the impact of the pandemic on neighborhood small businesses. The COVID-19 pandemic has touched every corner of our district, and it has affected businesses in every industry. Many of our neighborhood stores are currently on the verge of permanent collapse from a lack of being able to generate revenue for months, some being damaged in recent civil unrest, and others that have suffered significant water damage from recent tropical storms and flooding. Also in our district, the decision of universities and academic institutions that switched to virtual learning has removed over 55,000 college students, faculty, and professional staff from our community. These individuals and the spend that they would normally contribute to our economy, which is normally so integral for so many small businesses, specifically along our Lancaster, Baltimore, and Woodland Avenue commercial corridors, has caused significant harm to our local economy as well. So with so many small businesses on the fence of either stabilizing or permanently going out of business, the work of this committee and my colleague business associations and chambers of commerce is more important now than it's ever been. So as we navigate these times and talk about how the city can further help these businesses, I would call on the administration as well as members of City Council to consider reviewing and relaxing some of the regulations and the way that the city operates as it affects small businesses so that these businesses can start generating revenue as soon as possible and stabilize. And I want to provide 3 really quick examples of some things that are happening right now in our community that are affecting small businesses that the city and city leaders have the ability to help. So the first is an issue that's happening in Southwest Philadelphia with a business called Industrial Food Truck, or IFT. And it's a locally owned food truck fabrication facility that also operates a commercial culinary kitchen. That culinary kitchen serves as the kitchen of record for 40 small business food truck vendors that operate here in our city. In their situation this May, when the city services at the health department actually suspended their health inspections during the pandemic, IFT ended up having its license expire in the middle of the time period where the city's offices had rolled back those inspections. This immediately put into jeopardy those 40 vendor food businesses that could not operate without a licensed culinary kitchen on record. Furthermore, when the city's health department did resume its inspections, IFT was denied a license renewal because of a newly installed bathroom that, although had the approval of the Office of Licenses and Inspections, it had not received a subsequent second approval from the health department. City officials expected the business owner, who was following the normal construction process, to know and understand that they had to seek additional clearances from other departments after receiving a letter of authorization from the Department of Licenses and Inspections. During a pandemic where the services of the health department had already been greatly limited. As a result of that denial, those 40 food trucks and the combined 100 jobs that they employ here right now today are unable to operate. And so that's 100 people that are in this community that won't be receiving a paycheck this week. I want to thank Councilman Dom's office for his help as he's currently working with us to resolve this issue. But I think that this is a prime example of how some of the city's operating apparatus, as it affects small businesses, works to the detriment of a lot of businesses that are currently struggling to recover. I urge the city to review some of its operations from the perspective of some of these business owners. And now more than ever, when businesses need to generate that revenue to be able to stabilize, look at how the city can make some changes that makes it easier for these companies to operate here in our city. The second one relates to restaurants and food businesses that have been hit by the pandemic. The city's current regulations cap the occupancy indoors at 50% and outdoors, which depends typically on the length of the business's individual sidewalk. The city has also established additional restrictions on the operating times of these restaurants, requiring most of them to close by 10 p.m. Since these restaurants are already under occupancy restrictions, I would urge the members of City Council and city leaders to immediately reduce these restrictions to allow restaurants to be open till at least 11 p.m. and develop a long-term plan to further reduce these time restrictions dependent on our city's COVID-19 cases as they continue to decline and stabilize. Doing so will allow these restaurants the ability to serve more patrons on any given day, generate more revenue, and ultimately help stabilize their financial position, retain employees, and be able to continue to operate. The third and final example that I wanted to share today relates to requesting that the city be more intentional with the spending of relief dollars that are meant to help small businesses. As I mentioned earlier, the pandemic affects every industry, but there are some specific industries that have been unable to generate any revenue and some that even today have been unable to reopen. These industries and these businesses should be prioritized with the spending of any additional relief funds and include businesses like our event spaces, performing arts and music venues, our churches and faith and religious institutions, locally owned and small bars that do not sell food that have still not been able to reopen. I would ask that the city be intentional about prioritizing relief to these industries and also to areas geographically that have been disproportionately affected, like the neighborhoods that are directly surrounding University City. And I think that focus in terms of how the city spends a lot of those relief dollars not only means from the grant programs that are meant to assist small businesses, but also from the perspective of where the city awards grant dollars and the programs that the city decides to fund and how those programs need to directly relate to recovery, relief, and stabilization of the many commercial corridor businesses that are suffering throughout the city. Thank you again for allowing me to testify this afternoon, and I look forward to answering any questions or providing any insight that can help our neighborhood commercial corridor stabilize and recover from the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Jabari. Thank you for your testimony. And I guess it's good to hear, but bad to hear. Like we mentioned earlier, we need to be able to look at ways where we help people to comply instead of saying, we're shutting you down because you did something wrong. And, sometimes we expect all these business owners to know everything about all the regulations and all the departments. And as we find out in these positions, it's not true. And we often are trying to help them navigate that. But it better be coming from the individual departments. And it's a challenge. It really is. And especially during COVID and some of the challenges you have mentioned, really there should be better ways to handle that. And I think we need to do a better job. So thank you. I know Councilmember Dom, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick one. Thank you, Jabari, for your testimony today. And I speak on behalf of the chairman and all my colleagues on council, and that is that, thank God that your organization and all the businesses are operating in the city of Philadelphia. Thank God. We want you here. We want you to succeed. Your success is our success. We need to do everything we can to help you. We want you to get through this pandemic. We don't want to lose one business. We want to make sure you all survive. And, job creation and employment is so crucial to the economic base of this city. And I speak for all of us when I say this to you. Thank God you're in Philadelphia and you're operating. And we want more people to come to our city. So I just really appreciate every business owner. I know that so does the chairman, all my colleagues, that all business owners have choices. But those that are open in the city of Philadelphia, really appreciate them functioning here and operating here and supporting our city. So thank you, Jabari. And whatever we can do to help any of your businesses, I will tell you, any of my colleagues will go on a limb and help because we want those businesses to do well, not just in your district, but in any district in the city. We want those businesses to survive through this pandemic. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Jabari? And I just want to add one last thing is that as you bring up these examples, I think it's good for us to see as a council as we work with our individual departments, because, a lot of times people out there in the field think that when a department comes to them, they're only coming there for a problem. I think we have to change the mindset and we have to have a better way of approaching us and say, you know what, we're coming here. Oh, we see these couple things wrong. This is what you need to do to comply. Do this. I'll be back tomorrow, so forth and so on. And then we'll be able to get you back up and running, or to do it right there, have you correct the things that you can right away. I mean, there are some things that, you know, may need to be fixed, that may take a longer time, but we need to actually work with you so that you can tell us what those problems are, and then we need to work with our departments to make sure they address them the same way, and we're working to help people comply instead of working to help them close down. So I do appreciate that. And I see that we do have a quick question from Council Member Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just a very quick comment. I just wanted to thank Jabari for all of his work, just being on the ground and always being accessible to the small business owners on a number of the corridors, particularly in West Philadelphia, and just for all of your work after the civil unrest, where we all worked together very diligently to ensure that we could quickly clean up those corridors so we could notate for those communities that they are open for business. So thank you very much for your work, and also to my colleague, Councilmember Dom, who I know has been working with you in those